The sound wasn't coming through the speakers anymore. It was coming through his teeth. And the worst part? He was already turning the submarine deeper. Welcome, creepy souls. Tonight we go somewhere light was never meant to reach. 2 stories, 2 descents. Neither one comes back up. First, a deep-sea research team picks up a signal from the Mariana Trench. Not a sound, a frequency. One that rewrites your nervous system until you want to go deeper. Then, a salvage crew cracks open a black box from a sub lost 11 years ago. The recording didn't stop when the crew died, because the crew didn't die. The final entry was logged this morning, and it's addressed to you. Turn off the lights, and let's dive in. My name is Dr. Lena Marsh, and I need you to understand something before I tell you this story. I am not someone who panics. I have spent 11 years studying the deep ocean. I have descended to depths where the pressure would turn your body into something unrecognizable. I have watched creatures with no eyes and no name drift past my viewport, like quiet nightmares, and I have written them into a research log without flinching. I tell you this because I need you to understand the weight of what I'm about to say. What happened in the Mariana Trench on November 14th did not scare me in the way a dark room scares a child. It rewired me. The Peregrine 3 was a research submarine, 42 feet long, crew of 4, funded by a private oceanographic institute, whose name I'm not going to mention. We were 6 days into a routine acoustic monitoring mission, 800 kilometers southwest of Guam, hovering at approximately 4,000 meters. Routine. That's the word I kept using in my daily logs. Routine descent, routine sample collection, routine pressure checks. The submarine smelled like cold metal and recycled air, and the particular staleness of 4 people living in a sealed tube for nearly a week. I had gotten used to it. You get used to everything down there. The constant hum of the life support system, the occasional groan of the hull adjusting to pressure, the way sound travels differently when there is nothing above you but miles of black water. I was reviewing hydrophone data at my station when I noticed it. Not a sound exactly, just a small irregularity in the waveform on my monitor. A blip in an otherwise flat line. I almost scrolled past it. I remember thinking, the sensor is probably drifting. I remember pouring the last of the coffee from the thermos. It had gone cold. I drank it anyway. That was the last truly ordinary moment I can remember. I ran the anomalous signal through a basic filter and played it through my headset. It was rhythmic, not the random percussion of geological activity, not the biological chatter of whale song, or the mechanical signature of a distant vessel. This was measured, spaced at almost perfectly even intervals, approximately 4.3 seconds between each pulse, like a heartbeat, like something enormous breathing. I pulled up the spectrogram, and that is when the cold started. Not the ambient cold of the submarine, something else. A chill that came from inside my chest, which I immediately told myself was the recycled air playing tricks on my skin. I told myself that very firmly. The spectrogram showed a waveform I had never seen before in over a decade of acoustic research. The signal was not simple. It had architecture, layered frequencies organized into a structure that, when I rotated the visual model, bore a disturbing resemblance to a nervous system, a branching fractal network of nodes and pathways that extended across the frequency range like the cross-section of something biological, something with a nervous system vast enough to span kilometers. I sat with that thought for a long moment. I listened to the pulse again. 4.3 seconds, 4.3 seconds, 4.3 seconds. Marcus, I called to our systems engineer at the back of the cabin. Come look at this. He leaned over my shoulder, squinted at the spectrogram, and said nothing for almost 30 seconds. That's structured, he said finally. Yes, that shouldn't be structured. No, I agreed, it shouldn't. We decided to descend another 800 meters for a cleaner signal. Standard protocol, completely logical. I wrote it in the log as a routine adjustment. I don't know why I felt the need to call it that. At 4,800 meters, the signal got stronger. At 5,200 meters, it changed. The interval shortened from 4.3 seconds to 3.1 seconds, like something that had been resting had noticed us, like a pulse that quickens when startled. Our pilot Torres reported that the navigation system was showing a faint magnetic interference, not enough to affect our heading, but enough to register. He recalibrated twice. It kept returning. I watched him do it a third time, his jaw tight, saying nothing. You learn to read people in a submarine. There is nowhere to hide what you're feeling. Then Yui, our youngest crew member, and our systems tech, said something I have not been able to stop thinking about. Dr. Marsh. Her voice was very quiet. The signal isn't coming through the hull sensors anymore. I turned around. What do you mean? She was staring at her monitor with an expression I can only describe as confused and afraid at the same time, which is somehow worse than either one alone. The hydrophones aren't picking it up, but I can still see it on the biometric feed. She pointed to the health monitoring panel, the system that tracked our vitals for safety protocols: heart rate, neural activity, respiratory rhythm. All four of us had developed the same anomalous oscillation in our neural activity readouts, 4.3 seconds apart. Nobody spoke. I became aware of a sensation I had been ignoring for the past hour. A low, resonant vibration that I had been interpreting as engine noise. It was not engine noise. It was not coming from the hull. It was coming from somewhere behind my teeth, from somewhere deep in the cartilage of my inner ear, from somewhere inside. "Take us up," I said. Torres said, "The ascent thrusters aren't—" "Take us up, Torres," he tried. The submarine did not move. The lights flickered once, then held. The pulse in my neural readout shortened again. 2.8 seconds, 2.4 seconds. I could feel it now, not pain, which would have been easier to fight. It was something closer to the feeling of a word on the tip of your tongue. A pull, a suggestion, an almost thought that kept arriving and dissolving before I could examine it. Deeper. I did not think that thought. I want to be precise about this. It did not feel like my own cognition. It arrived the way a smell arrives, from outside, traveling inward, bypassing every rational checkpoint I had. Deeper. Come deeper. Yui had stopped trying to fix the thruster console. She was sitting very still with her hands folded in her lap, staring at the viewport, at the nothing beyond the glass. Yui. I put my hand on her shoulder. She turned to look at me, and her eyes were calm, not blank, not frightened. Calm, the way people look when they have made a decision and stopped fighting it. "It's not hunting us," she said, almost peacefully. "It doesn't have teeth. It doesn't need to." The viewport lamp, our single external light, picked up something in the water below us then. I don't know how to describe it accurately because my brain keeps resisting the memory. It was not a shape. It was an absence of shape. A darkness within the darkness that was different, the way a shadow is different from the thing that casts it. Enormous, patient, and it was not moving toward us. It didn't have to. It was simply waiting for us to come to it. I felt my hand move toward the thruster controls. I did not tell it to move. The rescue team found the Peregrine 3 11 days later, drifting at the surface. Navigation system dead. Power reserves at 4%. No signs of trauma to the hull. 3 crew members were recovered alive. I was one of them. The debrief lasted 9 hours. I told them everything I'm telling you now. They used words like mass hypnotic episode and shared auditory hallucination caused by CO2 fluctuation. They closed the file. I signed the NDA. I quit oceanographic research. I moved inland, far from the coast, far from anything that reminds me of depth. But here's the thing about a frequency, about something that learns the architecture of your nervous system and imprints itself there. Some nights, when the house is completely silent, I feel it again. That pull, that low resonant vibration behind my teeth, that almost thought arriving uninvited, deeper. And every morning when I wake up, the first thing I do, before coffee, before checking my phone, is look at my hands to make sure I didn't go anywhere during the night. So far, they're always still. So far. You just heard what the frequency does to a nervous system, and we're not even at the bottom yet. If this kind of darkness is what you came here for, hit that subscribe button right now. New horrors drop every week, and trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. Now turn the lights back off. Because the second story, the one with the black box, that recording ends with a message meant for whoever finds it, and someone just found it. I never thought I'd be the one telling the story. My name is Elias Crow, and for 15 years, I've been the audio forensics guy for deep-sea salvage ops. Most days it's boring. Cracked hulls, garbled maydays, the wet crunch of implosion that ends every recording right on schedule. 2 weeks ago, aboard the salvage vessel Triton's Reach, we pulled the black box from the research sub Erebus. She'd gone silent 11 years earlier in the Mariana Trench, 8,000 meters down. Everyone figured the hull had folded like tinfoil. I figured the same. I was wrong. It was 3:17 a.m. ship time when I carried the titanium cylinder into the audio lab. The Reach rolled gently on a flat, black sea that looked more like polished obsidian than water. No wind, no stars, just the low thrum of the generators and the smell of diesel and old coffee that clung to every bulkhead. I sealed the hatch behind me, set the box on the steel desk, and cracked the data port. A faint draft slipped past my neck, cold, damp, carrying the faintest trace of something earthy, like silt left too long in a jar. I told myself it was just the pressure seals venting after a decade in the dark. My heart beat steady. Just another night shift. Log the failure timestamp. write the report, collect the bonus. Home in 6 days. I poured the last of the thermoses into a chipped mug. The coffee tasted metallic. I plugged the box in, adjusted the headphones, and hit play. The first log was exactly what I expected. Captain Lena Voss, voice crisp and bored. Depth 4,200 meters. All systems nominal. Proceeding on survey grid. Background hum of life support. The soft click of instruments. I fast-forwarded through the next hour, sipping coffee, mind already drifting to my daughter's soccer game next weekend. Routine, normal. Then the timestamp jumped. Day 47. My thumb hovered over the scrub wheel. I played it anyway. Voss again, but the boredom was gone. We're at 12,500 meters. Pressure alarm should be screaming. Hull integrity still 100%. The water, it's not fighting us anymore. It's carrying us. A long pause, then quieter. The floor isn't rock. It's soft. I sat back. The lab lights buzzed overhead. My pulse had ticked up. Nothing dramatic. Just the first uneasy flutter you get when the numbers don't add up. Black boxes don't record for 47 days. Batteries die. Hulls collapse. I told myself it was corrupted metadata. Maybe a prank from whatever techs had prepped the unit topside. I let the file run. The logs kept coming. One every few days at first. Then weekly. Then monthly. 11 years of them. Unbroken. The crew never died. They just kept ascending. I tried denial the way you try to hold your breath underwater. Faulty clock, I muttered, rubbing the bridge of my nose. The lab felt smaller. The draft had returned, brushing the back of my neck like cold fingers. I checked the vents. Nothing. I kept listening. Year 2. Engineer Patel's voice, hoarse now. We dropped anchors. They sank straight through. The bottom isn't sediment. It's yielding, like a drum skin stretched over something hollow. We can feel it pulsing when the lights are on. A soft, wet thump in the background. Regular, like a heartbeat filtered through miles of water. My own heart matched it for a second. I paused the audio. The thump continued. No, it was the ship's hull. Just the normal flecks of steel on swell. I laughed once, short and nervous, and started the file again. By year 5, the logs were shorter, voices thinner. It's breathing, Voss whispered in one. We turned the exterior floods off for 3 days to save power. The membrane lit up from below. Veins or roots or something. Huge, moving slow. We turned the lights back on and it stopped, like it didn't want us to see. Another pause. We think it's been waiting a long time. I stood up, chair scraping loud in the quiet lab. My palms were clammy. The smell was back, stronger. Rotting kelp and something sweeter, like overripe fruit left in the sun. I cracked the porthole. Outside, the deck lights painted long yellow rectangles on the black water. The sea was still perfectly flat, no wind. Yet the coffee in my mug had tiny ripples moving across its surface. I stared at them until they died. It's just the engines, I told the empty room. My voice sounded small. I sat back down and skipped forward. Pulse now a steady, uncomfortable thud behind my ribs. Year 9. Only Voss left. The others had stopped recording months earlier. Her voice was a rasp. We haven't moved in 2 years. The membrane holds us like a cradle. At night, whatever night is down here, we hear it pressing upward. Not hard, just curious. Like a tongue testing the inside of a cheek. We keep the lights off now. Total dark. But yesterday, Patel's body shifted in the corner. I didn't touch it. Something else did. I ripped the headphones off. My hand shook. The lab was freezing. I could see my breath. The thump was back. But it wasn't coming from the recording anymore. It was coming from below the deck plating. Slow, deliberate. Exactly in time with the heartbeat I'd heard 11 years earlier. I pressed my palms to the cold steel. It vibrated once, gently, the way a sleeping animal shifts under a blanket. I forced myself to finish. One last entry, time-stamped only hours before we'd winched the box aboard. Voss whispering so close to the mic, I could hear the wet click of her tongue. We felt the surface light today. Your light. The salvage ship's floods cutting down through 11 years of dark. It finally noticed. The membrane's bulging right under us now. I can see the shape through the viewport. Huge, folded, eyes like sunken moons. It's looking up. At you. I'm so sorry. The recording ended with a single wet pop, like a bubble bursting against the hull. I sat there, headphones dangling from one hand. The lab lights flickered once, twice. Then the entire ship gave a long metallic groan that wasn't the swell. It was pressure, deep, patient pressure from directly below the keel. The coffee mug slid half an inch across the desk and stopped. I killed the playback, yanked the cables, and shoved the black box into its case like it might bite me. My heart was slamming now, a frantic drum against my ribs. I told myself it was over. We had the data. We'd head home. I'd never go near salt water again. But as I stood to leave, the draft returned, stronger, colder, and with it that sweet, rotten smell, thick enough to taste. I turned toward the porthole. The deck lights were still on, blazing down into the water, and for just a second I saw it, a faint glow rising from far below, pulsing in perfect time with the thump still vibrating up through the deck plates. Not bioluminescence, something larger, something that had been waiting under a membrane thin enough for light to reach. I quit the next morning, told the captain the box was corrupted, the data useless. I flew home 3 days later, landlocked, safe, except last night, in my apartment on the 3rd floor of a building 2,000 miles from any ocean. I woke to the same slow thump. It was coming from under the floorboards, not loud, just patient, testing, like a tongue pressing upward. And when I turned on the bedside lamp, the floor creaked once, softly, the way something very large shifts its weight directly beneath you. I haven't turned the light off since. I don't think I ever will. You made it to the bottom, creepy soul. Not many do. Story 1 showed you what happens when a creature decides to reach up. Story 2 showed you what happens when something on the other side finally notices the light. 2 different depths. Same conclusion. Some places exist because they were built to keep something in, not out. If this crawled under your skin the way it was meant to, leave a comment below with one word, just one, describing what you felt when that final recording played. No explanations, just the word. You'll know why. And if someone else's word matches yours, don't look into it. Like, subscribe, and stay close to the surface until next time. Creepy souls. The deep doesn't forget a frequency it's already learned.